money, can't complain. Wave, yeah. Everything is straight.
Well, I really like Black UNC and just UNC's social aspect in general.
Really brings a community together of just people who are overachievers. We're all really smart.
I do love UNC, you feel me? Because it made me who I am.
I feel like UNC is like Mean Girls on a smaller scale.
Put some money into helping us with our mental health.
And the like norm of like hyper productivity and like little self-care, no excuses.
I've had professors ask me, was I going to Africa for Christmas break?
So one thing that I hear a lot is that Black students should go to PWIs because it's going to prepare them for the real world more so than the HBCU would. Do you guys feel that going to UNC or going to a PWI has actually prepared you more for the real world?
It made me grow a little bit. I don't want to say like for the real world, but made me get out of like my bubble. Because I went to all Black high schools, lived in all Black neighborhood, never really been around white people, so never really had that experience. So I think it prepared me to look at the world in a wider sense.
It's prepared me on how to show up in a white space as a minority. It was a cultural shock at first because I did go to the same school that Vinny went to. Overall, it's like, okay, now I can go into my field and say, oh, there's no Black people. How can I show up as the minority? How can I represent my people? And I think that that's what UNC has kind of helped me with, finding my voice as a minority.
I think going to college has let me see in an educational sense and in an actual social kind of like experiment sense the things that I'm learning about my oppression when it comes to race, even when it comes to sex, and things like that. So I feel like I'm more aware in that sense, but I don't think I'm prepared. I don't think you can be too prepared for the world in any sense.
In what ways do you feel attending UNC has benefited you?
So I came from a very like conservative, small rural town, like 30 minutes north of Raleigh, and so coming to UNC, I guess I was always one to like keep my mind open about things, but living in that town, it was just very constricting, and so I was trying to find a way to branch out, get out of that type of thinking. And so when I got to UNC was just very mind fulfilling. Learned a whole lot of stuff, encountered a whole lot of people who are just like accepting people for who they are, like what they think about, and everything along the lines of that, especially within the Black community.
I definitely would say my first time going to therapy was here, but that jump was free, so I really appreciated that. And I also was on scholarship, so I definitely took advantage of everything free today brought my way. I'm gonna just be honest with you, I really did. I even got kind of like extra sessions and stuff like that, so I feel like that was really helpful.
Do you all feel like your professors cared about you or your mental health?
Oh, y'all about to get mad at me. I'm about to go real quick. But listen, I loved my professors. I might be the only person, and that's okay. But I swear to God, if it was not for my professors, I would have not made it through UNC. My professors were very helpful. If I couldn't make it to their office hours, I used to have conversations with them. I'm like, hey, this is my track schedule. This is my schedule. Can we meet with you at different times? They would set up different times with me. I would go eat lunch with them. Like, I loved all my professors. I feel like they're very helpful, especially in terms of my mental health. I don't know how many times I was disappearing from class. I definitely missed class for like 3 weeks. I definitely like disappeared, and all my professors reached out to me. And I was like, I really appreciate that, because I really be thinking I'm just another student.
So Vinny, I see you shaking. You said no. What has been your experience?
I've had professors ask me, was I going to Africa for Christmas break? Like just weird. Like no concern for what I was going through. I remember the fall of my sophomore year, I was in a really bad mental health state. Like I was in UNC hospitals like every week, like in a psychiatric ward. And I was telling my professor, like, I can't come to class, like I just physically can't come. And it was like this big deal because it was like a test that I was gonna miss. And they really was not trying to like excuse the test. I had to go to like the academic dean and everything. Like it was just so much. And I feel like I don't even have professors now that even want to put in any type of effort. Like we're going through a whole pandemic and it's still kind of like business as usual. It's like, oh, I'm sorry that you guys are going through this, but here's 40 assignments that's due tomorrow by 11:59. So it's not really like, it's like a blanket statement. Like, yeah, I'm sorry that you guys are going through this. And, you know, I really don't care because this is a university. This is a for-profit university. We're trying to make as much money as possible. We're going to keep you guys in school. So this is what we're going to do. It's not really like a genuine concern.
Yeah, I had something similar to that too earlier in the semester. And not that because we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, we should get special treatment as students, but it is a little bit harder to navigate our classes and stuff like that. So especially when you got stuff going on at home or like, you know, you just never know what might happen. And I had a similar experience where I missed an exam and I, you know, try to explain my situation to my professor. And he was just kind of like, well, are you being an organized student right now? And I'm like, yes, I'm being an organized student. I just have other things in my life that have priority or that, you know, I'm dealing with right now. So I definitely resonate with that too.
I feel like there was a really good point that Vinny made, just talking about like seeing how these like for-profit industries work, and kind of even tying that into like the question about learning about like the real world. Like even though it's unfortunate, I think that exposure to like going to UNC does really put like a big highlight on the like norm of like hyper productivity and like little self-care, no excuses for any sort of thing that might be going on in your life. I don't know, like a lot of their experiences are the default, and I feel like there's not a lot of consideration taken into like what we're experiencing on campus as like minority students, and how that might affect like our mental health or our ability to show up and all of that. And I definitely like had to express my needs a lot because the default, although most college students do have anxiety for some reason, that is like not the assumed default to like be checked in on. So it really required intentionality on my behalf to get support and resources in that realm.
A show of hands, how many people have experienced some type of like discomfort when it comes to anxiety, depression, something mental health related at UNC?
For me, when I was coming out of high school, I tried to be, you know, one of the top of my class and like always doing community service and doing all this kind of stuff. That's a culture. Like if you're not always busy, then you're doing something wrong. So like I was trying to fit into that culture. I was trying to be leaders in multiple organizations while also trying to make sure that my grades are good and also, you know, just trying to build my resume to be the top that it could be. And eventually like that caught up to me and I started dealing with things that I've never dealt with before. I've had like anxiety attacks after like a simple leadership meeting or something like that. Just feeling overwhelmed and even trying to use Google Calendar and stuff to organize things. But when you see all those tasks build up on one day, like it's a lot on you. And I feel like other universities may not have to deal with that. They have like a more calm culture where you're not.
It's like my freshman year and then just even throughout college, like I guess I don't know if y'all ever heard of like the freshman 15, you know what I'm saying? People gain 15 pounds. Man, I lost 15 pounds. And if y'all know me, I am very small. So it was like very concerning because I remember the first time I came home, my mom was like, what happened to you? Mental health wise, I was depressed like majority of my time here at UNC. And that's the honest to God truth. And it's crazy to say too, because like if y'all see me on a typical day, I'm bubbly, I'm happy, I'm talkative, I'm all in. But that's just because that's how they taught us. Like when I first got here, I was telling my coach, man, I am not, something is wrong. Like something is really wrong with me. I personally think we only have, I think it's over 800 athletes in our department, and we have, when I left, we only had one full-time sports therapist. What? Y'all, do the math. Do the math. What are you going to do to help me? You feel me? And you can't even get into the meetings because it's booked up. And I really feel like instead of pouring all this money into these new stadiums, into these new locker rooms, to all these advertisements, putting everybody on billboards, all these pictures, making it look great, put some money into helping us with our mental health.
Yeah, I just really wanted to speak on to what Caitlin was saying, that freshman 15 stigma. Um, I feel like UNC. I think I came in thinking, okay, I'm gonna gain those 15 pounds. Came into college um, at 155, and that was like for me like a breakthrough, because I've been struggling with my weight for a good portion of my life. And so like that was a breakthrough for me. And I came in like, okay, look at this. We're gonna gain another 15 pounds. I'm gonna try and build some muscle. Um, and by the end of, gosh, I want to say I got to Christmas and I was 140. And so um, that was hard for me because that was an automatic 15 pounds that I had lost just by one semester. And for me to be a current, or struggling at 135, it's just been like, damn, like what am I doing wrong, and is it me? And just dealing with that, like with like I guess the implications of that. And they seem to genuinely be concerned and like they care, and they want to help, but it just seems like they don't know what to do. Um, like they can't help or they don't know how to. And COVID isn't helping, I don't think, like them or me. And so I just think that that has been the hardest part of like, you know, everybody kind of saying, oh, you just kind of got to dig in, figure it out. And it's like, well, what does that look like? Like, how do I do that?
We all discuss this in private. It's something that we all talk about, but no one has came publicly to talk about what it's like socializing, what it's like dating, what it's like doing all these things. So, yeah, what do y'all feel like the social aspect of UNC is like? What can you compare it to?
With Black UNC, the social aspect is really good, but it's also really bad in the same sense because your information will get around if it gets to the wrong person. In a positive sense, I really like Black UNC and just UNC's social aspect in general, because coming in, like I'm a real outgoing, bubbly type of person. Like before I got here, I was in a group me called Chocolate Carolina. You know how every class has their group me or whatever. I was in there and talking all day, every day, up until we got up to campus. Got to campus, I knew people, see everybody. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, hey, how are you? Da 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 da. This and that. And so then that ended up getting me to be Mr. Freshman. Got to be Mr. Freshman, and then after that, it just blew up even more. I'm knowing seniors, sophomores, juniors, everything, the whole 9 yards. Like I'm just like in general, Black UNC is just they're very, very welcoming, but also in the negative sense. I mean, well, they do have negatives that come along with it.
And I feel like UNC is really, or just Black UNC specifically, really brings a community together of just people who are overachievers. We're all really smart. We all got to UNC one way or another. And at the end of the day, you can only ride, for your own people. No one else is really going to ride for you. All these other races and white people specifically may not go as hard for you as another Black person will at UNC. So I feel like that building that community, really fostering those bonds, really helps out a lot.
Thing that's like kind of encouraging about UNC is that there are so many people there that you can find folks that are going to affirm you, going to help you get through things, that are going to ride for you, be loyal and do all the things that you like to do. I mean, they even got groups for the people that don't be wearing shoes walking around. They got their little squad. So there's people for everybody.
My experience at UNC, the social aspect has been a little bit different. So like Jam, and I think it was Michael spoke also. Like Jam is he was in Greek life when he attended UNC, and then Michael said that he was Mr. Freshman. And I've had a different experience. I'm not in Greek life. I'm not in many orgs. Like I was in MCOC for a little bit. And, you know, I went to the parties and stuff like that. I socialized too, but just like kind of in a sense of what Songs was talking about, elitism, classism, things like that. I think it was really apparent to me as someone who wasn't, I didn't have all these titles. I didn't have all these organizations that I was joining and stuff like that. And I knew that it would just be a lot. So by me not being a part of, you know, orgs or like having these titles and stuff like that, I feel like it was a lot harder for me to socialize and a lot harder for me to not even meet people, but just maintain those friendships. Because once they, in my opinion, once people realize that, oh, you're not president of this and you're not, you know, in Greek life and you're not doing this or you're not doing that, it's kind of like they, in my opinion, they value you a little bit less. They're like, oh, well, you're not as much of an asset to me because you're just a regular person. And it's like, as a regular person, as someone who, I'm not going to go pile all these titles on my name. I'm not going to, you know, try to stretch myself very thin. It just kind of is eye opening to like, kind of like it that also touches on the hyper productivity of I don't have to do all these things, or I don't have to be all these things for me to be valuable, for me to be somebody worth socializing with.
I definitely agree. Like, I feel like UNC is like Mean Girls on a smaller scale. It's like, you're not popular, then you're not in. And I am not that type of person. Like, I like to be to myself, do what I do, and just, you know, be myself. I don't like to be around a lot of people or to have to feel like I need to be in all these leadership roles, because that's just not who I am. Like, school's already hard enough. I don't need to add more things to my plate. Even like trying to find like space to socialize or space to go out to parties or go out to events, it always seemed like I was the oddball at most situations. So it kind of just like sheltered me into a place where I don't even want to go socialize with Black UNC because I already know I'm not going to be accepted.
Do you guys feel like you regret going to UNC?
No, I don't regret going to UNC, because if I didn't go to UNC, I wouldn't have met the amazing people that I have, wouldn't have gone through certain experiences that I have. But one thing that I did used to look back on in high school, I loved to run track. Like, track was my passion. You can ask Sherm, like, I was the track manager just because that was how much I loved track. Like, I loved track. And so the fact that when I came to UNC, I had to give that up because I wasn't fast enough to be on the team, which was perfectly fine. It was just, I felt like I was like giving up a piece of myself because
To say that I regret going to UNC, I wouldn't say that, but I would definitely say that the system that UNC places students in could be much better. You know, it's the oldest public school in the nation, and it truly shows just with the buildings being named after white supremacists, KKK leaders, students, you know, saying they don't feel comfortable, more so like Black students, they don't feel comfortable with certain things being done on campus. Nothing really gets done. It's just not really progressive. And it's just a, you know, it's a whole different conversation in itself. But yeah, I really can't say I regret going to UNC. Definitely wish things were done differently.
I similar to everyone else, I don't regret it because of the people that I've made, the connections that I've or like the events that I've experienced, all this kind of stuff. And I think I don't think this is unique to UNC. I couldn't learn this stuff anywhere else, especially at the PWI or even the HBCU. I could learn about the academics part, but just the social setting, that's the reason why I don't like UNC, why I don't have like a Carolina tag on my car, because I don't want to have that attachment in a sense. But also, I've always wanted to go to UNC. Without knowing all this stuff, I probably wouldn't have went. But I've always wanted to go there, and the people that I've met, I just can't help but still love the institution. I think it's like James Baldwin's quote saying basically like he loves America and he loves it so much that he wants to change it. I feel that same exact way about UNC. Like, I love it so much that I want to change it.
Yeah, I think similarly, even though, and I'm sure a lot of folks probably feel this way, yeah, like went through some things, don't regret going to UNC though in general, the folks that I met, the lessons that were learned. And I also just want to name that like a lot of the things that we're talking about are definitely not unique to UNC. I mean, I've had these same conversations with folks at State and how they're like, you know, their setup is. And I think it's, yeah, just important to name that a lot of these dynamics are just generally what happens at institutions. And yeah, as powerful as they are at bringing folks together, I think that a lot of these challenges are felt just because of the general dynamics of these institutions, which is to like keep you on the right track to achieving the American dream, which, you know, is capitalist, homophobic, racist, all these other little things. And so I think that kind of learning how to navigate in an institution like that, which is most institutions, is like a something that I'm very grateful that I got to experience.